Welcome everybody. Today I have a great lecture. I've done a lot of planning for this, a lot of research. It's on the unusual topic called Tartaria. A lot of people may not have heard of Tartaria. So today I've got a whole lots of pictures, lots of diagrams to share with you today, and I'm just going to go through them and explain them. It's kind of like Alice in Wonderland said, what's the use of a book without pictures? So I want to make this high visual content because it's a subject that's under a lot of controversy. This is kind of the idea of an ancient civilization that was so advanced that it's the core of our technology today, but it's kind of been hidden, not talked about. So I want to shine a torch on this subject of Tartaria. And basically what we're doing is we're looking at some buildings, some modern day buildings that still exist from ancient times. Now this one comes from Bulgaria in a place called Sofia, and we're going to look at the golden domes. It's called the Alexander Nevsky complex, and we want to take a close look at this golden dome here because that's typical of many of the structures today. And in a nutshell, if you've never heard of Tartaria, what they're saying is that these buildings created the electricity. They were tapped into the ether through the Gothic cathedrals, the antennas, through the gold domes. They created electricity to the point where you could just put your lamp into the wall and it would light. So no, it was wireless electricity, tapping into the ether. But see, what's happened since the 1920s, as I've done this research, people like Tesla and many other great minds, they were talking about the ether, which is kind of like a plasma or the fourth state of matter. And it's like Indira's net. It's what connects everything. It's like a World Wide Web, but for the cosmos. And even though we can't see it, we can tap into it. And that's how we can light up lamps and electricity gadgets that we use today. So energy was always generated through the golden domes. Now, going back to the 1920s, all the books that were written before the 1920s all talked about the ether, but I noticed that after 1920s, this was all taken away. It just got redacted. So I think what we're trying to do here today is to bring back the true meaning of what the ether is. It's like we have fire, earth, air, water, but what's this fifth element? Well, it's the ether. It's that which connects all. So we believe that in the past, energy was always created through not just the golden domes, but they were in the towers and the obelisks and in the colonnades. The colonnades were like coils, but this specific golden dome that you see here acted as a resonator. So we know that even the arches that you see in the fine detail, these are coils and they conduct currents of positive and negative ions. We're going to talk a little bit about what an ion is, as in the ionosphere. It means we're tapping into the spheres around the planet, the ionosphere. And even these tiny little archivolts are toroidal vortices. So a lot of this topic is about the torus, because the torus not only turns itself inside out, it makes the long wave and the short wave unified. This means through the golden ratio, the mathematics that underpins all of this architectural wonders is the appropriate ratio called the golden ratio, Fibonacci sequence. It's non-destructive and it allows energy to travel from the microcosm to the macrocosm. And the beautiful thing we notice about all these structures is that there was always living water fountains or canals nearby. So that's one of the most distinctive thing about Tartaria. So that was this electromagnetic energy. It was being extracted directly from the ether, like turning on a tap. And today scientists don't know how to deal with it. So they just call it dark matter. They make it up. They don't really know what they're saying. Oh, well, this is dark energy, but it's fictitious. It doesn't exist. So the symbol for the electromagnetic field is what we call two counter-rotating fields. And so this idea of vortex is putting the spin back into the water, putting the spin back into our body to remain healthy. And the best way to explain the counter-rotating field is by looking at a pine cone. So we look at a normal pine cone, and if you look at the center there, you'll see that there is spirals. But if you look really closely, something's going on. If you look closely, you'll see that there's 8 spirals going one way. So if you look at this, these are going clockwise. So 8 spirals going one way. And you can put your finger here and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I want you to stare even closer, because what you'll notice is that when you squint your eyes, you'll see that there's another 13 going the other way. So nature hates midpoints. Nature doesn't go 8 spirals this way, 8 spirals that way. It goes 8, 13, and that's the Fibonacci sequence. And the ratio of 13 to 8 is approximately 1.618. But as we build up these numbers, as we start increasing, dividing the bigger Fibonacci number to the next one, we get closer and closer to 1.618. And if we multiply 1.618 forever, or divide by 1.618, we end up with what's called the medical symbol, called the caduceus. So the powers of phi, the golden ratio, were embedded in these architecture. And a lot of these images that I'm going to show you now are by Marcia Ramalho. She did an amazing video just called The Aether. And I'm just going to take a quote from her. She says, "Our beautiful old buildings were the engines. Nowadays, horrible engines are inside ugly buildings." So the purpose of this rant today is to make us appreciate that there's a divine connection between our body and the other word that sounds like body, called the abode. An abode is the house, it's the temple. So temples were sacred structures that connected us to the macro, and were the bridge between the worlds and the microcosm. So this was really important. And that the ultimate engine at the core, at the heart of all these structures, was the concept of the form called the torus. A torus just means a ring. It's a ring of energy. And it's the fusion of the ions in a torus structure that creates the electromagnetic field that we call the plasma. A lot of people aren't calling the universe, they're calling it the plasmaverse, because now we're starting to understand the components of the plasma. So these Tartarian buildings, in summary, were designed to extract the free atmospheric energy, and their secret formula was using what we call superconducting crystals in their composition. And we believe that in these buildings, they used a white geopolymer concrete. So crystals store memory, crystals are conductive, and these were the key to all modern technology, like our radio, our music, satellites, the iPhone. The ability that I can communicate through to you right now globally is because crystals store memory, and they do it through the geometry of the star tetrahedron. So this macabre geometry here is what stores the memory in the crystal. This is the atomic structure of a crystal called quartz. So that's why sacred geometry is the key to understanding all of this. So so here's another image. I want to show you how they used a bit of science in the on the domes as well. There was some mercury amalgam were inside these balls. So you can see a ball here, and that we've got the gold dome as a resonator. And then we have to question, what are these antennas doing? And these are the key to fractal design. So when I talk about what's fractal, so to understand a Tartarian building, they were using what's called fractal. Fractal means self-similar, when the small part is the same as the large part. And so when the inside is the same as the outside, like when we look at this the nesting of the Russian dolls, we can see that there's the mother, and inside the mother, that was the grandmother, the mother, and inside the mother, there's the child. So, and it goes on forever. So these babushka and matryoshka dolls were the key to what fractal, because fractals also got to do with ancestry, the blood, and the DNA. So this is all connecting to the composition of DNA, and every protein in our body is a 5-pointed star. So when we say DNA is based on the ratcheting of the dodecahedron, well, that's the 5-pointed star. This is the shape, the key to every protein in your body. So we are these monuments, and these magnificent buildings from our past were designed to produce clean energy to feed the entire world. Because we can see there's something missing right now. We look at the pollution in the world, something is wrong. We're not attuned to our structures anymore. It used to be sacred, now it's not. And all these columns that you see, the ionic capitals, the pediments, the dentals, the reliefs, these ornaments weren't just pretty decorations. They were actually used profusely to guide energy waves to keep the citizens healthy. So healthy buildings attuned to the cosmos acted as monuments to radiate good energy to the body. So even the holes, when you look at the details in these monuments, even the holes served to tune the sound waves, or they're acting as like wave guides. It means we're in resonance, we're in harmony. So that's what I'm saying, that these gold dome resonators were fractal designs. Fractal doesn't mean fraction. It's actually the opposite. It's talking about wholeness. When you're connected to the whole, you're the bridge between the worlds. You're connected to the universe and to the atom. And that's what the torus does when it turns itself inside out. So every detail of a modern day church was based on electrical current. So even the rose window, I'm going to show you some beautiful rose windows coming up inside the churches. These were amplifying what we call the ionic flows. So this inquiry into Tartaria needs to ask some basic questions. And so we're kind of saying that, what if these famous buildings that we all know, like the Taj Mahal, what if it wasn't really a mausoleum, like a place where we buried someone? What if it was actually a power station? And that's the central question that Marcia Ramalhal's been asking in her YouTube video, Aether. So she made this whole documentary. So I just wanted to give thanks for all these images that she sourced and found the best photographers. And what she's basically saying is that these giant copper structures, like when we look at, say, let's say when we look at the Statue of Liberty, the Statue of Liberty was very closely linked to another amazing ancient structure called the Colossus of Rhodes. And that was built around 290 BC. It actually stood about 111 feet tall. But she asserts that not only these two statues, the Statue of Liberty today and the ancient Colossus of Rhodes, like about 2,300 years ago, it was actually built before the 1600s. Now, this is the stuff that's controversial about Tartaria, that what we think are modern day structures were actually being built along many, many centuries ago. So this is the discussion. I don't want to enter that. I just want to look at, I'm a builder by myself. I grew up as a bricklayer, a builder. So I've always, whenever I stand in front of a building, a church or a sacred building, I feel a sense of awe. And why do we feel awe? Because when we look at that building, it's actually a reflection of who we are. So when we go, oh my God, this is such a beautiful structure, we're actually recognizing, or it's a mirror of our own biological architecture, which is in harmony with everything. So just to recap this image, the gold-covered dome acts as a giant resonator. We discussed that, but it was capped by mercury amalgam balls, which in turn was capped by many, many antennas reaching for the sky. So these copper coils are evident under the arches and all the columns. Now, the reason why I'm particularly fascinated by domes, because I built many arches in my structures in Sydney and Byron Bay, where I come from. So I love building arches, but what the dome represents, it's actually a three-dimensional circle. So if we think of the dome as a hemisphere, a half sphere, so the symbolism of the sphere is that it's a mathematics of the circle. And the circle being based on 360 degrees is really an attribute of what we call unity consciousness, and it's got to do with what we call pi. But the value of pi that we know today, because all our maths, a lot of our maths is incorrect, it's been distorted. So the pi isn't what you think it is. It's not 3.141. Pi is actually based on the golden ratio, the mathematics of the human temple. And so when we see that pi is based on phi, 1.618, we get a value of 3.144. So that slight error in pi means the relationship between the diameter of the circle and its circumference, we're a little bit out. And that's why things happen where the technology we're using, like say we put the mobile phone to our ear, it's causing cancer because our technology is slightly out. We haven't been given the whole truth. So that's my work as a sacred geometrician, is I'm working towards looking at the basic symbols of creation, like the flower of life, the seed of life, all these amazing structures. And we realize that there's an ancient coding that needs to be corrected. So I call this stuff the correctional code, and everything that we need to learn, I believe, is secretly embedded in these columns here, in these structures, in these temples. So here's another one I want you to look at inside the high altar of Saint Peter's Basilica. It's called the Basilica de San Pedro. So you can sort of be amazed and wondering about the extreme detail that's gone into making a church beautiful, because the church, the altar, is a symbol of our own inner landscape. We're fascinated by curvature against straight forms, and observe the pillars that are the four black pillars that are twisting. So there's a lot of symbolism in this. So we can start by saying that the four spiraling columns indicate what we call spin or vortex. Vortex energy is being created. So this is the Holy of Holies. So we want to amplify that space so that the priest becomes the conduit, the bridge between heaven and earth. That's the role of a true pope, is to be in sacred space and channel the cosmos through him or herself.